Hey guys, meet Veronica Hansen. Veronica is an entrepreneur and a B&B host. She also runs vacayvisionary.com, an e-course designed for hosts who share their homes. This is a very unique proposition in the short-term rental industry. I'm a chartered accountant and I'm into real estate big time. And, short-term rental, Airbnb is the new mixture of real estate and financial technology, fintech. As I've been saying that fintech was applied to retail industry, Amazon, Alibaba, eBay, and then they moved to transportation, which is Uber. Now it's for real estate people, Airbnb.
Totally.
So that is where we are at the moment. So we're just doing these interviews to help people who potentially want to invest in property for the short-term rental market, and also landlords and homeowners like myself who haven't been in short-term rental but have heard the buzz coming up and they want to know what is going on. I know you have a product and service that later on we'll talk about, which will be fantastic. So just tell us a bit about yourself, what you do at the moment, and how you got into the short-term rental business.
Totally. So my story is a little bit unique from what I have heard across, different host Facebook groups, because unlike other people who have an additional property that they're renting out, or unlike someone who just rents out an individual bedroom, my business model is that we have one house. My husband and I own this one house. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And we basically rent the whole house. And so people wonder, like, where do we go? And so what we do is, with our house, it's set up to host 15 people, and my family is 4 people. So we did this renovation that involved like built-in bunk beds. And then, so we house a ton of people. So our price is much higher than, an individual hotel room, obviously. So when I take my family and we go stay at a hotel and we pay just a standard hotel room price, and then the groups that are renting our house pay significantly more. So our profit margin sort of lies within that space of the difference between our accommodations over there and the groups renting our house. And we didn't envision ourselves getting into this business, if you will. Like, we just randomly did it because about a year ago, I don't know if you got this story in London, but there was this solar eclipse that was passing through part of the United States. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was like international news, where it was like, oh my gosh, there's no hotel rooms available. People are renting out space in their backyard. And I just kind of thought, well, I could rent out my house. I'll just go stay with a friend while we, rent out our house. And our first booking was like $4,000. And we were like, this is crazy. So we just kind of stayed in it, and we've been doing it now over a year.
Oh, wow. It is publicly known that U.S. former Obama's chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, said, crisis, what crisis? There was a solar eclipse, there were no beds, and you thought, hey, damn, why can't I use my rooms to do it? And now you've got a business you're running, and in fact, you've even taken it further by the services that you'll be providing, which we'll be talking about shortly. Fantastic. So how do you get your occupancy rate high?
So for us, because our model involves some overhead, right? So instead of like wanting to be at 100% occupancy, we actually don't want to be at 100% occupancy. We want to be at that optimum sort of price range that gets guests that are quality guests, because they're paying a high price. So they're not like going to trash the place, and they're not just like high schools partying like in the house. We sort of are in this sweet spot where it's like they're paying enough to cover, our expenses and give us a profit margin without it being 100% occupancy. So a program like Airbnb, when they're trying to tell you what price you should price your place at, they're telling you what price would get it more towards 100% occupancy. And we're not at 100%. We, out of the last 365 days, we were rented for 53 nights, and 53 nights generated a good income for us. That's how many nights we had to leave the house. And it was just sort of a sweet spot for the kind of model we're doing.
Oh, wow. That sounds very interesting. So are you using a website, your own website, or are you dependent on Airbnb to have your occupancy or bookings come in?
Yeah, so we have a Facebook page for our rental. We call it Rent Me VIP, and I just called it that just for funsies. I just wanted to come up with a cute name, so it's called Rent Me VIP. And we have a Facebook page that drives a little bit of traffic because like we're the central city in our state. And I'm able to drive traffic from the central city and the state above. So we get a lot of renters based on the Facebook page coming just 3 hours south to us. But we don't do private bookings. We do it through the Airbnb platform. And luckily, knock on wood, I have not had a problem. But I do it through Airbnb in case there's a problem, just for that safety of like knowing there's, possible insurance or some sort of thing like that.
Oh, fantastic. Sounds quite a different model from some of the, B&B options that there are available there. Yeah. But in terms of your communication with guests, can you take us through when a guest makes first inquiry and when they check out? What is your involvement? What is your engagement? And do you think that actually helps to increase your bookings?
Yeah, so I feel strongly that you want to match the guest where they are. So I know a lot of people have like these sort of formulas of how often they reach out. I send an initial message when they make the booking, and my initial message consists of just a couple of questions like, who are you? Why are you coming to town? And then my sort of baseline question to gauge how much interaction I'm going to have with them is, what are you most excited about during your trip? So I ask that like open-ended question, and I feel that the responses that I get from what are you most excited about from your trip or like for your trip, I feel like that kind of gives me an idea of who they are a little bit. Yeah. So I can kind of tell like if it's a bachelor party or if it's a school group, or we've had a variety of different people. And, I feel like certain groups like the bachelor parties or bachelorette parties, they don't want as much involvement. So I gauge it on that. And then after my initial like, hey, how's it going? I just send a message the day before explaining the lock, even though it's on, Airbnb has a place where you explain how to get in your house and give that information, but they don't read it. So I send an actual message with the same text in it saying, here's how you get in with the lock. And then based on that, I just tell them, hey, I'm available. And I check in 24 hours after they check in to make sure everything's working. Did you find everything okay? Did you have any questions? Here's how you can reach me, and just kind of be available. So I'm not overbearing. I just want them to know that if they have questions, don't be afraid to reach out.
So you make yourself available even though they've checked in, and you've perhaps given them a tour of the property or anything like that. What about... I don't do tours of the property. I'm never on site. I don't meet them. They do keyless entry. Oh, okay. So do you manage your outfits remotely then?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How do you do that?
So I use a remote keyless entry lock. I use like a remote thermostat. I use remote security cameras, all of which are controlled by an app.
Wow. What app is that?
So, well, they're different apps. So I use, my security camera has its own app to view the security camera. My lock has its own app to change the locks. And then my thermostat, if I'm not going to be home, like after the renters check out, I don't want to be heating the place if there's nobody in it. So I can control the temperature if I'm away.
This is robotic short-term rental management.
Yeah,
I
totally.
talk to us a little bit about that. I think this is exactly why we're doing these interviews, because in this industry, there is a lot of innovation. There's a lot of evolvement that is going on. What you're telling me is completely different to what a lot of landlords and property owners know about. So it means that are you only managing your properties in one state? Or with your model, do you think it's possible for you to start managing properties in other states in the US as well?
Oh, I could certainly manage this remotely. It would be no problem managing it remotely. Our plan with the business that we sort of accidentally fell into is to use our profits from this and just simply pay off the house. So I don't really believe in the like buy and sell real estate so much. I just want to buy and hold everything. So I want to just kind of accumulate things, but I feel like paying them off in full and just owning them outright is going to be the best sort of model for our personal situation. Because then as soon as this is paid off, which will be in about 2 to 3 years. So we've lived here for 5 years and we'll pay it off in about 2 to 3 with our profits from Airbnb. And then we'll be able to leverage ourselves into another house and be mortgage free on this home.
Which is the ultimate goal of everybody who owns a property with a mortgage on.
Totally.
Sounds interesting. Now, in terms of tools, technology, you seem to be in that really, because you're using a lot of gadgets, a lot of applications to manage how you switch your lights off and on, your heating off and on, and your locks and everything else. What else are you doing with an app? Are you doing the cleaning with your app as well?
I'm not that fancy. I don't have cleaning with an app, but I do use like a task list on an app. Let's see. I have my Apple TV hooked up to an app, and that allows me to control that. The Apple TV is actually what talks to some of the technology in my house to sort of link it to the Wi-Fi. I think that's all the apps I use is just those smart smart gadgets. Yeah.
It is. Is it expensive to have all these applications? Because and do you think having the applications helps reduce costs?
Yeah, it's totally free to have. The smart lock app is free. Like you just purchase the lock itself and it's a one-time cost. The thermostat app is free. One-time cost of purchasing the thermostat. And both of those items are very reasonably priced. Like I purchased ones that the thermostat was under $200 and the lock was under $250. So once you make that initial purchase, you don't have to pay any more. With the security cameras, there is a yearly fee for that app. And I chose a price point that allowed me to keep the footage for 30 days. So my security camera has rolling recordings of the last 30 days. So if there's ever a problem, once I come home, I can view that and check, maybe what caused the problem. So yeah, there's no really ongoing costs except for the security cameras. And I feel like it's totally worth it. As far as sometimes a renter would check out, but we're still on holiday because we use our money a lot of times to go on vacations.
Of course, why not?
Right? So we go to these places and we might not be back to the home for 3 or 4 days after the renter checks out. So that means the property is vacant because we don't get a lot of like weekday bookings simply because of like it's a high occupancy property. So it's much more dominated on the weekends. So in those days, we are able to change the thermostat so that we're not worried about heating a place that's empty, and that definitely reduces utility costs.
Of course. Wow, this is extremely interesting. Now, tell me about reviews. Have you had negative reviews before, or are you a 5-star rated, accommodation? Yeah,
so I'm at a 4.9 stars.
Excellent.
And so like whenever they do the they have the different categories that they can do the reviews, the overall and the location and the accuracy.
Cleanliness and all that.
Yeah. So for the overall, it's always 5 stars. The number one thing I get rated low on, I think I got a 2-star one time even, is location. And the location is because I live in a suburb. Like there's the main city, which is Portland, Oregon in the United States. And then we live in a suburb, but that's clearly defined in the listing. Like it's not a secret. They just
people don't read.
Yeah. So you can't really, I feel like I can't really affect the location. So I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, overall, like the actual reviews for things I can change. Yeah. 100%.
Oh, wow. So you haven't, when you had a two-star review, for example, I know it's just about location. What was your response to it? Because a lot of people in some of the SDR groups do get emotional about haven't got bad reviews because
Mhm.
they put in the sweat and blood and tears
Right.
into it and one sentence and that's it.
Yeah.
And so they get a bit emotional there and they reply on the
Mhm.
platform emotionally, which I
Mhm.
understand is not best practice. How did you
No,
manage with bad reviews?
I don't. I don't. Like, I know a lot of people think it's very important to go on there and respond to every review. I just haven't. It has not been, I feel like that is, you're right. It's 100% emotional, and a review is a review. After the fact, I just can't change it. If the review like said something that was just like super inaccurate and like, I don't know, they said something that was gross about my house, I might, respond with one sentence of like, we pay a cleaning service to handle that. I'm so sorry you had a bad experience in that realm. But
Mm.
you can't go past one sentence. And I just have not had a situation where I felt like a response was even necessary. So I just choose to just let the reviews be, and they just stand alone, and they tell people about my property, and they show that I'm not like a crazy host that has to like be up in your business all the time. So I just don't respond.
I see. Makes interesting sense. I was just saying that in one of the interviews that I had, some guests come in, 5-star review. Just about a couple of days later on, somebody comes in, gives me 3-star reviews for no apparent reason because nothing had changed. Well, just after them, another 5-star review is obtained from the guest. So I get sandwich reviews of the same accommodation. Nothing has changed. So
Yeah.
I remember being emotional about it and wanting to really respond. But, I checked myself and I think I had a chat with Airbnb and they said, look, just respond addressing the things they have given you negative reviews about
Yeah.
and leave it at that. Be brief and simple and short. No emotions, just be professional about it. And I
Yeah.
think that is how you did your one as well, where you didn't even give any review anyway. You
Yeah.
didn't respond, did you?
Mm-mm.
I see. So tell us about how you're taking this business further, because there is a school of thought that is saying that short-term rental through made popular by Airbnb is the way to go as far as renting accommodation is concerned. What is your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, this industry is doing nothing but growing. I think that, the way that I have gotten into this industry is really kind of like bootstrapping a business. Like,
Mm,
I don't have a secondary home. This is just like the only home I own. And tons of people who own a home can benefit from extra income. So I think that more people, as they're educated about the industry, can realize, oh, while I'm on holiday, I can rent out my space, whether that's, around Christmas time or during the summer or whatever. They don't have to do it all the time like I do it. But people who travel as a group, whether that's a family or multiple families, they want a congregating space. Hotel rooms they're just so small, and they don't give anywhere to socialize, and they don't allow you to cook your own meals and save money. When you're out on a vacation, you always have to eat out at a restaurant, and that's incredibly expensive if you're traveling with groups. So this industry, I mean, provides this. I love the sharing economy. I mean, it's just so fabulous.
yeah.
It gives us an opportunity to share the things that we have and be more it's more community, and I love it, and I think it's growing. And I think the idea of scaling, how everyone in the short-term rental business wants to scale, I get it. I totally get that. And
Mm.
I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that it will be profitable. It will continue to be profitable for a long, long time.
I think so, because when you think about criminality and punishment, you think about jail. When you think about illness, you think about hospital. These are all institutions. When you
Mm-hmm.
think about traveling, you think about a hotel. It's also another institution.
Yeah,
Airbnb and short-term rental has deinstitutionalized
totally.
accommodation and hospitality. And I think that is the way forward. People are looking away from being institutionalized in hotel accommodation and going to use people's homes, other accommodation where they can cook and do everything else as if they're in their own homes. So that is the way to go.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. So how do you I think you're doing some business about it. First of all, are you looking to scale your business?
Yeah, certainly. I'm looking to scale, but I'm looking to scale in a financially viable way for my family. So, in terms of a lot of people trying to scale by just simply purchasing more properties, we want to scale responsibly by paying off this property and then moving on to the next one. And then, and then we'll have an asset. We'll fully have a 100% paid off asset so that we can move on to our next project without just digging ourselves into a financial hole just in case. I totally believe in this industry. I think it's fabulous. I want to stay in this industry, but I don't want to feel like I'm in over my head financially.
Yes, but what about the concept of not just purchasing? Because there are a lot of people who are building empires with this building, but not necessarily purchasing, puffing up any huge amounts of money. What they do is what they call master lease or co-hosting. Have you thought about expanding your business by these methods?
Yeah, so part of the reason I'm not super keen on that is because I've been self-employed for about 13 years, and I am nervous about putting my future and my ability to make income in someone else's hands. So when you're doing the leases, ultimately you're helping that owner like make the money. And so much of what I am interested in this industry is really bringing it back to the individual homeowner and empowering them to build their own empire. So if you're doing the leases and you've got your system of like renting like tons and tons of houses, that's awesome, but it's also an incredible amount of work. And what I want to prevent the work. I want to scale in a way where, eventually I can have someone else doing the work on properties I own, and I want to be the top of the empire. I don't want to be the middleman in someone else's empire by doing like a leasing scale kind of thing. I want to scale by owning. That's my personal opinion. I get that, it's a lower startup and easier to get into the leasing part of it. Like that, that's a very common, a lot of people are teaching courses on that right now. That's just not my personal, that's not my personal route.
I see. Now, you've got a business, you've got a course that's just about to come out, and you've got a website. I've looked at the website, which you sent to me, and it's looking very nice. It's a very nice pink website. I like it. I like the colors. Tell me a bit about this, Veronica. What exactly is the website about, and what are you looking to do?
So, like I said, I'm very interested in helping empower individual homeowners instead of people who have a lot of cash to purchase more properties, or instead of doing the sort of leasing scheme, that kind of thing. I'm more about, how can we use what we have right now to get you more income? That's what my business is about. So I launched this new company, Vacay Visionary, and I launched it because I had been doing my business for a year, and I had a friend say, hey, I would like to learn what you're doing because that looks really interesting to me. Can you show me? So I was able to walk her through the steps that I took in about 30 days. So from the time she contacted me to the time that she had her first $1,000 booking was about 30 days. And I was like, wow, my process like works on other people. And then so light bulbs went off, and I thought, I can teach other homeowners how to do this. This would be no problem. Yeah, totally. So I created this course on Vacay Visionary. I'm calling the course itself the Homeowner Hustle. So the Homeowner Hustle is designed to teach people who only own one home how to make that home into an income generating property. So I have kind of 3 different ways that can happen, whether that's sort of a shared space where they rent out an individual room, whether they want to create a separate living space like a live-in basement or a mother-in-law sort of suite on part of their property, or whether they want to rent out the whole house and just pick up and leave like how my family does. So the course is about people who own one home. How can we turn this one home into something that earns you money in a passive way so that you can do whatever you want, pay off your mortgage, travel more, pay off debt, save for retirement, all those things that we always feel like we don't have enough money to do because life and bills and all of that get in the way. And so we are just trying to give regular people more income. So it's an e-course, basically. It's an e-course teaching the exact system that I went on, and I've got documents on there to teach them how I did things. I've got my entire communication process on there, like word for word house rules, everything they need to sort of, get themselves. I have all my gadgets. I have, here's how you turn your house into a smart house and all of that. So yeah, the e-course will be launching on October 1st. So depending on when this comes out, it might already be launched at vacvisionary.com.
Yeah. Wow. In digital marketing, we call something your avatar, which is basically this fictitious client that you have.
Yeah.
So who is your avatar in this course?
So I've got a couple of different avatars. One would be just people who own their home, but are feeling like they don't have enough liquidity, like enough cash to sort of sustain themselves. So just someone who is just a regular person who owns that house, who doesn't have enough cash to maybe send their kid to soccer camp or go on holiday. I would say just sort of that bottom tier of middle income. That's kind of one of my core avatars. And then another one would be sort of empty nesters. So more towards the retirement age, but maybe not ready to retire, but their kids have left the house and they're just sort of older and thinking, maybe I could, get a secondary income stream to have somebody, rent a room or something like that. So there's a couple of different generations that I'm trying to hit with that business.
Sounds very interesting. This is a very peculiar niche, really, that you are targeting, which is great. And you know exactly what your avatar is. But there is an issue there, a concern for most homeowners who perhaps, as you say, the kids have left the nest or have a bigger space than they really do require. What about security? You have a stranger come in to live with you. And it's not just one stranger who you know about. These are multiple of strangers coming in and going all the time. That is a security concern for a lot of people. And I don't know how you manage that, but I'm sure your course will teach people how to manage that. But just as a brief one, how do you get people to manage this security concern?
Yeah, so Airbnb has a built-in system to allow you, especially for live-in hosts, you have more freedom in terms of how you sort of pick your guests. So for example, female live-in hosts, like if you're a single person and you're just a female living in your house and you're going to rent out a room, you actually have the ability to honestly just discriminate against men. So obviously most countries have anti-discrimination laws, and it's like, oh, how can you discriminate against men? But for safety concerns, Airbnb does have the ability for you to say, listen, I only want to rent to individual women who are traveling. And so that sort of gives that safe space for women who own a home to rent to women who are coming to travel, and sort of gives a little bit of a safety there. You also can set up where they have to have a government ID on file, or they have to have previous positive reviews from hosts. So there have been times, I'll be honest, where I have messaged people who left reviews for somebody who was coming to stay at our house. And I've said, hey, you can't message through the Airbnb platform, so you have to pretend you're making a booking. So I've messaged them pretending I'm making a booking and said, hey, listen, you left sort of a vague review. Can you give me more information about that? And, so don't be afraid to protect your house and find out, what these things mean. That's why I always try to be super specific in my reviews so that other hosts are not thinking, what does that vague thing that she's saying mean? I try to be very accurate so that other hosts can make that determination about who they invite into their house.
Oh, I see. So I take it that perhaps your course will give more detail about the steps that people have to, homeowners who are just looking to rent the spaces and rooms. You show them the steps that they have to take to maximize income. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
How do people find, I know it's vacay, do you want to go to the website again and the details that people can have to contact you?
Yeah. So The website that I'm running right now is called vacayvisionary.com, and you'll be able to access the course from vacayvisionary.com. I know visionary is kind of hard to spell, so I will have the course on October 1st
Fast.
linked to the homeownerhustle.com. So homeownerhustle.com. That's much easier to spell. So www.homeownerhustle.com.
Fantastic. Excellent. It's been a great interview with you, and we're going to obviously put all these in writing under the video and let people know about it, because you see, there is different segments into this market. It's not just an entire house. There's also people who live in the house, have spaces, and would want to do exactly what you do. So yours is a very different and unique niche, and I think it's a great one. Veronica, last question. If you're an animal, what animal would you say you are?
I would say that I'm a giraffe. Giraffes can see everything because they're so tall, and I like to look at things from the big picture. So I would be a giraffe so I can see everything.
Do you know one thing I've just noticed about you?
Huh.
What you say is exactly true, because vacay visionary, giraffes can see everything.
Yep. Exactly.
That is absolutely true. Fantastic. Okay, Veronica, thank you so much for having you. And, it's been exciting to hear your side of the industry that you're actually, being on a mission for, really, because there are a lot of homeowners, retirees, people whose kids have left the nest. The business, there is a big cake for everybody to have a share of. And you've just had a share for yourself and your business. And Vacay Visionary will do well, I'm very sure. Thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Douglas.
Brilliant. Take care.
Bye.
Bye now.